The movie opens with a voiceover by a teenage girl talking about how moments in your life that can define you, while it shows a montage of shots of a couple spending time together. The girl says everything in her life was simple before him, and now it's just after. Tessa, Josephine Langford, wakes up from a dream and starts to pack her room to leave for college. She is joined by her mother, Carol, Selma Blair, and her best friend, Noah, Dylan Arnold, in the kitchen downstairs. Her mother is listing off items that she thinks that Tessa will need, while Tessa reminds her that she is going to college and not a survival camp. Noah interjects and says he can drive up there and drop anything off if she forgets it. The next scene shows them driving through various city settings until they get to her new university. Carol, Noah, and Tessa make their way through the crowded dorm halls looking for her new room, B-22. They open the door and are met by loud music and two girls sitting on the bed. Tessa introduces herself to her new roommate Step, Khadija Red Thunder, who is whopping. Step introduces Tessa to Tristan, Pia Mia. Step makes a remark about being unsure about having a freshman roommate, but she says it should be cool, she'll be her spirit guide. Tristan says that they can get Tessa into all the best places even without a fake ID. Carol leaves the room upset and demands that they ask for a room change since the room reeked of weed. She doesn't want these girls to distract Tessa from her schoolwork. Tessa reminds her that she is responsible and it won't be an issue. She says goodbye to both Noah and her mom. Tessa returns to her room, and Tristan is gone. Step and Tessa chat about freaking out Carol, how Noah is Tessa's BF, not her brother as Step believed, and still a senior in high school, and Tessa's rather large book collection. Step leaves, and Tessa unpacks. She is shown later in bed texting with Noah about starting her first day the next morning. Tessa leaves her dorm early in the morning, and heads to her first class across campus. She meets Landon, Shane Paul McGee, outside of a locked classroom. They are the first students to arrive. A professor comes by shortly and opens the door for them. It is an Econ 101 course. They chit-chat about their majors and being first-year students. Later that day Tessa takes a shower in the dorm and realizes that her clothes fell on the ground and are all wet. She returns to her room in her towel and opens the closet door. She notices a boy sitting on Step's bed in the closet mirror and whips around startled. She tells him she thinks he is in the drawing room. The boy tells her he is in fact in the right place as he barely breaks his concentration from the book he is reading. She then asks him how he got in, and he holds up a set of keys. She asks him to leave so that she can get dressed, but he tells her not to flatter herself. He is not even looking at her. Step enters the room and sits down on the bed with him. Tessa asks Step to have her BF leave the room, to which Step replies that he is not her BF and asks the boy what he had been saying to her to make her think that. The boy says he has been minding his business. Step tells Tessa she is going out with them that night, but Tessa seems reluctant. The boy makes a snide comment about not being able to see her as the partying type. Tessa decides not to go. Step and the boy get up to leave. Just as the boy is about to go out the door, he hands the book he was reading back to Tessa. He says that The Great Gatsby is a wonderful book, and he hates to spoil it for her, but it was all a dream. Tessa corrects him and says that actually, it was all a lie, important later. The boy smirks at her and leaves the room. Tessa is shown the next day at a campus coffee shop studying. A trio of people walk in, one of them being the rude boy from her room the night before. They order their drinks and Tessa makes eye contact with the boy, and he slightly smiles. They briefly stare at each other, and he turns and walks out with his friends. Tessa goes to the library to study. She is interrupted by Step, who tells her that they are going to a party that night. Step helps Tessa pick out her party outfit. She settles on a maroon dress. They make their way into the frat party, and Step meets up with Tristan in the kitchen, kissing her. She is her GF. This seems to shock Tessa slightly. They head into the living room where a group of friends lays on the couch. It is the trio from the coffee shop and another guy. Step introduces Tessa to her friends. There is Zed, Samuel Larson, Jace the Townie, Swain Kamel, Molly, Inanna Sarkis, and the rude boy Hardin, Hero Finney Stephen. Molly and Hardin are laying with each other on the couch and kissing each other. Zed inquires about Tessa's major. She wants to do something business or economics related. Jace offers Tessa a drink, which she initially refuses, but takes a swig after Molly makes fun of her. Molly suggests that they play a game of truth or dare. Tessa says that's a kid's game, but Molly explains not the way that they play. Jace asks Tessa truth or dare, to which she chooses truth. Molly asks her where the craziest place she ever had sex was. Tessa is noticeably uncomfortable and asks to pass, and Molly picks up on it. She asks Tessa if she is a virgin. Tessa does not want to answer, so she asks for a dare. Jace dares Tessa to make out with Hardin. Hardin slowly gets up from the couch and walks over to her. Molly starts filming the encounter on her phone. He bends down and whispers, asking her she wanted to go through with it. They both stand up, and after a few seconds of them looking into each other's eyes, Tessa announces she's done playing the game and walks off. Hardin seems shocked by this, and the group teases Hardin about this being his first rejection. He turns to Molly, who is still filming, with a little look of disbelief on his face, but he slowly smiles. Tessa calls Noah outside on the porch of the party, where he gets on to her about partying and drinking. She hangs up on him and heads back inside. She makes her way up the staircase and into one of the bedrooms. There is a Union Jack flag hanging on the wall and a shelf full of books. She sees a copy of Wuthering Heights with sticky notes throughout it. She opens it to one of the pages. Just as she begins to read, she is started by Hardin, who asks her what she is doing. She asks him if he is drunk, which he says he doesn't drink, just like her. He sees that she has his copy of Wuthering Heights and recites some lines from it. He calls her Theresa and asks her if she knows it's Bronte. She corrects him and says her name is Tessa. Hardin then asks what she is doing in his room. She seems embarrassed that she is there. He grabs hold of the book, runs it up her inner thigh using it to lift up her dress slightly and leans into her. He asks if they are still playing BC. She owes him a dare. They almost kiss before Tessa stops herself and leaves. She is shown laying in bed texting with Noah again and him apologizing for scolding her earlier. He wants what is best for her. Tessa makes her way into a class and looks for a spot to sit. She sees Molly and Zed in the crowd and avoids them. She finds Landon in the front and joins him. They are both excited to have been allowed to take this upper-level English course. Hardin makes his way into the classroom and sits just as Professor Soto begins talking about the book, Pride Prejudice. She asks Hardin what his thoughts on the book are. Tessa seems perturbed that he is in her class. Hardin says that Elizabeth Bennet gave Mr. Darcy a hard time and he wasn't so bad. He believes that love is something that you can turn on and off, that it isn't real. Tessa raises her hand and says that she felt the novel was ahead of its time. Hardin interjects and says that's a load of crap. The banter back and forth in front of the classroom full of students. The disagreement has morphed into being about them and what happened between them the night before. Professor Soto ends the argument and Hardin looks pleased with himself, yet intrigued by Tessa's tenacity. Class dismisses, and Hardin follows Tessa out of the building exclaiming how much fun that was. Tessa scolds him and says that there is nothing between them. Hardin feigns ignorance and says he was only talking about the book disagreement they just had. Hardin walks off, and Landon joins her. Tessa voices her disapproval of how arrogant Hardin is. Landon says that Hardin is just being Hardin and he knows him well. Landon's mother is dating the university chancellor. Chancellor Scott, who happens to be Hardin's dad. He says that they tolerate each other. We then see Tessa sitting at a tattoo shop while Jace inks Step. They suggest that she gets one, but she refuses, saying her mother would kill her. She explains that mother has her whole life planned out for and that she probably has already planned her wedding to Noah. Step questions whether Noah is the only boy that Tessa has been with, which he is. Tessa is later shown laying in her bed as Step and Tristan come home and start to fool around. Tessa turns over in her bed and seems lonely. The next day, Tessa walks into the campus coffee shop and orders a drink. She notices Hardin sitting on the couch reading. Hardin approaches her as she is putting sugar in her coffee. Hardin tells her it will be difficult to stay away from each other since Step is his friend and her roommate. He says that they should start over, just be friends. Hardin says that he wants to show her something, a place. Tessa maintains that they need to keep their distance. Hardin responds by taking a step back from her, making Tessa laugh. Hardin tells her he'll see her around and walks away disappointed. As Tessa heads for the door, she has a change of heart and decides to join him. They have them driving in his muscle car in silence, stealing glances at one another. They come to a wooded area and proceed to walk to clearing with a lake. Hardin announces that this is his favorite place. He starts to take his shirt off and says that they are going swimming. Tessa seems uneasy because she does not have a suit. He jumps in and comments how nice the water feels. He tells her she can wear his shirt if she wants. She asks for privacy while she takes off her dress. Hardin faces away from her, sneaking a peek. He turns back around and comments that he likes his shirt better on her. He helps lower Tessa into the water, and they swim playfully. He says he enjoys the silence and they talk about. He asks questions about her BF. She asks him whom he loves most in the world, and he says himself. They move closer to one another, and Tessa reminds him that they are just going to be friends. Hardin says he doesn't think they can only be friends. They kiss each other. They get out of the lake, and he hands her back her dress and turns around so she can put it on.